Hey everyone, it's Ellis, and this is going to be the patch 9.17 notes rundown. I'm a little bit afraid, so let's just get right into it. Champions, Aurelion Sol. Passive damage decreased. AP ratio is now flat. Stars are no longer disabled by CC. Q cooldown now scales. Movement speed increased. Star will keep up with Aurelion Sol. W now expands stars and rotates at a decaying speed. Cooldown increase. Cost no longer increases over time. E passive movement speed removed. Range and cooldown altered. Speed now scales. I didn't have anything before this patch notes dropped, and so I submitted this as my balance so that I could keep my job. It's really weird. The invisible ink really just cuts off here. Anyways, I have no idea what this salad is, and I probably just don't even want to try to get into theorizing what it could possibly mean. But I guess he's reworked it to some extent. Damage is down. Damage is down, but up early, right? Up early, but down overall. Nullifying CC, ability inhibiting crowd control no longer nullifies center of the universe, okay? Q star surge, cooldown 10 seconds to 11 to 7 seconds scaling, movement speed 10 to 20%. Catch me if you can, Aurelion Sol is faster than his star. The star will speed up, or will keep up to speed up with him, okay? Celestial expansion. When Aurelion Sol pushes his stars out to the outer limit, they gain increased damage and rotate at a high speed, but decaying speed after 3 seconds. Or if Aurelion Sol reactivates early, the stars will retract and grant Aurelion Sol 40% movement speed, decaying over 1.5 seconds. Cooldown 6 to 4 seconds to 8 to 2 seconds. Okay. Mana, 40 plus 22 to 30 mana per second. It's activated to 70 to 110 mana on cast. This just, I feel like they're just making him a combo mage. Like some sort of a bursty kind of combo mage. I'm just trying to think what this ultimately is. It basically looks like a poor man's Xerath in terms of the combo, right? E Comet of Legend. Aurelion Sol no longer gains bonus movement speed when moving in the same direction for a short period of time. Range, however, is the old rank 3, so it's 5,500 cooldown, 60 to 40 seconds to 80 to 60 seconds, speed 600 to 600 to 800 scaling. So I'm assuming, obviously, this gets max last, and so the speed being changed doesn't really matter all that much. How much does this really play into his roaming ability? I'm assuming that the bonus movement speed wouldn't have enabled him to gap close the 2,500 when roaming to top and bot or something, but this affects his movement speed on recalls unless he's just using Comet of Legend to get back into the lane. Which I guess could be a unique factor. The thing about Aurelion Sol is he got indirectly hit by a lot of the itemization change that surrounded him, and then he also got nerfed himself. If Aurelion Sol just had a little bit more damage, his previous version would have been totally fine. I think that a lot of pro players would probably share that sentiment as well. And the other thing about Aurelion Sol is that he's also semi-balanced by Scuttle Crabs to an extent, in the sense that if the defending team against Aurelion Sol has control over it, then it makes his job a little bit harder. You can play around him with pings and vision control and whatnot, at least in a competitive or a high MMR level. I'm fully aware that there are Aurelion Sol 1-tricks that have abnormally high win rates on the champion at higher MMR and whatnot, but the reality is that the champion is competitively not really that viable, and he was only able to be played in mid lane. So it's really strange that they elected to just completely overhaul him. Maybe this went good in testing. When I'm looking at it, it looks like a very gimmicky sort of Talon. It's giving me an AP Talon kind of vibe to it, in the sense that he has very obvious upfront direct burst combo synergy now inside of his kit that is front-loaded. And then some of his roaming got hit, but not entirely. I'm not sure. So, okay. Galio, Q cooldown decrease, W min and max damage increase. Galio's been underperforming the last few patches. I wonder why. So we're helping him out to keep him competitive against other choices. Yeah, I'm sure that that's what most people say when they put their parents in care and never go back. Anyways, base stats, rounding out an unnecessarily gross number, 9.3 to 9.5. Q Winds of War 14 to 10 seconds to 12 to 10 seconds. Oh, I'm sure that's really what was gating Galio. W Shield of Duran 10 to 50 minimum to 20 to 80. Maximum damage 30 to 150 to 60 to 240. Really weird. The invisible text here says, oh, I think that's TOS. It's suggesting whoever was behind the original changes that removed him from the game should be fired. That's really weird. Anyways, no, not they shouldn't actually be fired, but I mean, Galio is easily takes the cake for. It's like when the police need to put someone away, but they don't really have the true criminal. They have a suspect, and they slam them right in prison. America, by the way. Anyways, Kalista, base attack damage, mana and mana growth increase. Attack damage 67 to 69. Mana 231 to 250. Mana growth 35 to 45. So Kalista has the weird thing where she doesn't get 100% AD. Kalista buffs are always nice. She was actually very high priority earlier on in the year, but then the ADC meta and bottom just mixed up quite a lot. She was also becoming semi-popular because of her ability to handle Ezreal when Ezreal was really popular. And she had extremely great synergy with the Holy Trinity of supports at the time, which was basically Braum, Tom, and Galio. And when some of them kept getting hit, it also indirectly hit Kalista. And so while the Kalista changes are really nice, they're not magically going to bring her back. I feel like, if anything, this is probably like an SKT buff or something, but it doesn't really matter because it's 9.17. So I don't know what the Worlds patch is. I'm assuming that Worlds patch is 9.18, so nothing to panic about just yet. Anyways, Kayle, passive bonuses adjusted for all 4 forms. Q now refunds mana, cast delay, missile speed, and range decrease. Cast time updated. Enemy shred decreased, but duration increased. E bonus damage decreased, later ratio increased. On hit ratio updated. R cost now scales, radius increased. Passive divine ascent. Arisen form at level 6 and a flame at level 11. Okay. Wait, arisen form at level 6. Wait, hold on. A flame form and then arisen. Okay, this is actually a really nice mix-up to her passive. Zealous bonus movement speed, 15% when exalted, moving towards enemies to 8. What? Why? Zealous stack sources, basic attacks and non-structures, all basic attacks. That's really nice. That's actually that's a nice buff. Arisen attack range, 550. Why? Why? God. August, what are you doing? Honestly, what are you doing? Pull any pro player aside and ask them to play your champion. Ask them to take Kayle into scrims and play your champion, and then field them these ideas and just watch the faces that you get. Just a suggestion. Arisen attack speed per stack. Kayle's bonus attack speed from her Zealous form no longer increases to 10% bonus attack speed per stack when Kayle is in her Arisen form. Great. Transcendent Fire Wave, true damage. Fire Waves no longer deal... What? Transcendent attack range. When Kayle is in her Transcendent form, she gains an additional 50 range for a total of 575 attack range on basic attacks. Okay. Fuck you, I apologize. That's a nice change. That's a nice change. Okay. That's alright. Got him. Shit. But I'm still really mad about these. I'm not letting you off the hook here. Alright, we're almost out of August, but you know, we've still got a few days left. Alright. Q Radiant Blast now refunds 50% of the ability's mana for each champion hit with it. 0.5 to 0.25 seconds. Cast delay 0.5. Sorry. Now refunds 50% of the ability's mana for each champion hit with it. That's insane. Cast delay 0.5 seconds to 0.25 seconds. That's insane. Cast time, attack speed time, which is 0.25 seconds. That's fine. Missile speed 2,000 to 1,600. That's fine. Range 950 to 900. That's still fine. Resistance reduction. 20% of the target's armor and magic resist for 3 seconds. 15% of the target's magic for 4 seconds. So, yeah, that's fine. Okay, Starfire Spellblade damage 8 to 16% plus 1% per 100 ability power to 8 to 12 plus 1% per 50 ability powers. Now it's sort of incentivizing AP Kayle. to an extent, but you need quite a lot of AP to start making up for it, which I don't know exactly how this new Kayle will itemize. But on hit ratio, 0.1 total AD and 0.2 ability power to 0.1 bonus AD and 0.25 ability power. So it's really moving Kayle into the AP Kayle form. Our Divine Judgment, 100 mana to 150, 0 mana. That's really, really cool. AoE radius, 475 to 500. You know what? Normally, I give Kayle a lot of shit, okay? But I think these changes are all in the right direction. I feel like August is going in the right. I actually like all these changes except for these. I don't like this this change. I don't like this change. And then this. Arisen attack speed per stack. I don't like the removal of these two things, but I guess that they're just moving Kayle into AP. So ultimately what this will mean for Kayle is that she'll be able to spam her Radiant Blast more often. And now because she has a clear way to itemize, it's going to make things a little bit easier. Being able to come online at level 6 instead of having to wait super long is also going to be helpful. I still do wonder what it will mean, though, for her build order, because she's going to want AP, but she's also still going to want to make use of attacking and stuff, so Nashor's is probably still always going to be core. I really hesitate to say that this will make Kayle super viable, but with a lot of other champions having been hit, she can... this is really interesting. AP Kayle was really thin, but I think that this helps her mid-game enough to come online and help her through laning phase. Then it's mostly in part just due to Radiant Blast. The refund of the mana just makes it so much easier for her to get something like Lost Chapter or maybe even Tier or something like that to carry her through laning phase. Obviously, the minigame against Kayle will be to play the minigame that requires her to either hit you or hit the minion wave, but if she's coming online with range earlier on, then she doesn't have to rely on walking up to the wave like she previously did before and maintaining her waves or her flames or whatnot. And so she'll have different ways to play through the laning phase and potentially just get to that normal recall. So I think this is all totally fine. All right. Let's move on. Leona. Q cooldown decreased. Q Shield of Daybreak. 6 seconds to 5 seconds. Okay, that's nice, but it's not what holding Leona back. Base AD increased. Base stats, total attack damage 61 to 64. I don't think it's heavy enough by any means to start picking Sheen items on Lucian, like the old Lucian that used to have Trinity Force. But obviously it's a very nice little buff. So even though it is just 3 AD, it's fine. I mean, Lucian's already picked in really, really thin situations anyway. This isn't going to be a buff that makes him first pick or anything like that. It's also not going to magically make him blindable. You're only going to pick Lucian in very specific situations, and probably just if you're not capable of playing Draven. I think that that's likely to just be the reality of Lucian's situation. So he's going to need more buffs if we're going to see him meta again. Nico can now deactivate her passive without taking damage or casting another ability. Okay, that's nice. Pantheon. Q thrusts now grant execute damage. E monster damage reduction removed. That is super big. Thrusting Pantheon Spear, releasing the ability within 0.35 seconds now also increases the physical damage on targets below 25% of their max health, matching a fully hurled spear's bonus damage. That is huge. Gives him a lot more leeway later in the game. E Aegis Assault, monster damage reduction, no longer reduces damage against non-epic monsters. That's really good too. It's going to help out his jungle clear. Do I think that it's magically making Pantheon better, given his current state? No. I still think that his ratios or other stuff about him just needs to be buffed. These are obviously all welcome. It'll really amplify his early game, which Pantheon is still Pantheon in the early game. In the mid and late game, I think that he's infinitely worse than he was before, even though he has the Yasuo Wind Wall basically on his Z. Yeah. So, alright. Kiana, E-base damage decreased, R cooldown flattened. 120 seconds at all ranks is definitely a little bit annoying for Kiana. E Audacity, 70 to 210 to 60 to 200. It's not going to change or prevent anyone from picking Kiana. So you're not picking her thinking that, you know, your rank 2 ultimate is somehow going to gate you by 20 seconds. And you're also not thinking that the 10 damage off Audacity is magically going to remove her from her very situational pick currently in the mid lane. Base magic damage, base magic resist increased by 4. That's really nice. That's a nice little rise buff that helps him out everywhere. Zyra, R cost flattened, cooldown decreased. Cost 100 to 140 mana to 100 mana at all ranks. Cooldown 130 to 110 to 110 to 90. Obviously, these 2 ranks don't really matter, but the first one potentially does matter, especially because Zyra is traditionally a support and they level slower. So the rank 2 on ult takes a while to get to anyway, and then supports don't really ever get to rank 3 in most games anyway. So the Zyra change is really cool because it's not a change that should magically propel Zyra into the meta by any means. And I feel like Zyra, all that she needs is some sort of a placebo buff to get pros playing her. I feel like so many people have forgotten how good of a champion Zyra actually is. And I got into this argument on Twitter with several people that think Zyra is really bad. Zyra is not bad. She answers so many meta team compositions. And when you view it from the angle that Zyra is blue in Magic the Gathering, she's a control champion, she can shut down and nullify entire team compositions whilst allowing the hyper carry or the dual carry type of team compositions to come online and scale. She lets you win team fights that you're down in gold. She terraforms certain team fights, or she terraforms the location that certain team fights are allowed to take place in, or what both teams are going to be free to do. Free champion rotation is changed. Bug fixes, cool. Upcoming skins and chromas. All right, guys, this is what you guys are all here for, and then we'll just do the recap. So let's take a look at this. So Elderwood Ahri is pretty good. It reminds me of the place in Final Fantasy X where Titus and Yuna are in that lake or something, or the surrounding forest or something. And it just feels like Ahri probably lives in that village or something. That's totally fine. If you're not a boomer like me and you don't know what Final Fantasy X is, that's okay. No big deal. Elderwood Nocturne looks like you're about to sell your soul for something, and it looks like you just got jebaited into some really messed up deal. I don't know if this is Helmet Bro or Helm Bro, or I don't know what his name is. Maybe that's him, and that would just be a really, really sad story. But I actually really like this Nocturne skin. It reminds me of M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. The mask, or just the general appearance of it, gives me the monster in that movie's vibe. Infernal, Shen, Varus, and Galio are all actually in one splash, and the reason that Riot Games is bringing out this splash art is because they're really trying to capture all of the players playing WoW Classic, and they want to give you all that Ragnaros vibe so that you can WoW while you lol. Okay, there you go. I just broke that one down for you. Now let's move into the real one that I feel a real personal story that I can tell you guys because I've bore witness to this. Okay, now you'll notice the female in this image only actually has 2 fingers and a thumb. You'll also notice that the color of Vygar's skin and just his overall demeanor looks a little bit like Majora's Mask. No, that's not what I'm here to tell you. What I'm here to tell you is that this was the night that Jax was conceived. See this? 3 fingers. Purple. You see this? This, like, mushroom rod? You ever seen what Jax wields? Yeah, I'll be here all day. All right, let's do one last recap. Aurelion Sol, I'm assuming that he's going to take on the form of an AP Talon of sorts, but I can't be for certain. Galio's just a joke. If they keep buffing his base stats and whatnot, maybe he'll actually come online as the AP anti-mage that he was intended to be, where he's just this hulking beast or something that slowly moves at people and does things. I do think that if they keep giving him subtle buffs like this, then Shureyla's Galio with whatever items he used to have probably has a place back in the meta. If you end up going like Shureyla's to make up for the fact that he can't flash W anymore, maybe we end up seeing Mid Galio come back. I think that that's the only way that Mid Galio does come back, though, is the Shureyla's mid Galio with HP and semi-off-tank AP Galio. I think that that's basically the direction they're trying to get him to go in, even though I disagree with the direction entirely. I don't enjoy it. The Kalista changes are nice, but it's not going to change any of the spots where you pick Kalista. The Kayle changes are really cool, and I apologize for my initial rant at the very beginning of reading them. I think that the remainder of the changes were salvaged pretty nice. Leona is nice. Same with Lucian and Nico. They're not really that massive. Pantheon's early game got buffed, and his mid game gets helped out quite considerably too, but his late game's still going to be really poor. I still think that Pantheon needs buffs. Obviously, I'm referring to super high MMR and then competitive. Keanu doesn't really change or impact her. The Rise thing is very nice. And then Zyra, I'm hoping, just ends up being a placebo buff because teams don't recognize how strong Zyra is. She's definitely just a counterpick support, but Zyra is not just a lane bully support. She's a team comp counter support, and I think people don't necessarily just see her like that. And then obviously for all these skins, I think that Nocturne is probably the best one. The Infernal ones are obviously all really cool, but Ahri is probably going to sell the most. So that was it for the 9.17 patch notes rundown.